Welcome to the experience of the Triple T Josie Gray Show, where truth and transparency in life's challenges bring help, hope, and healing.
Listen now as Josie tells the truth about personal growth and spirituality, relationships, health, and finances.
Tell the truth, Josie. Well, hello, and thank you for joining us on the Triple T Josie Gray Show. And thank you, too, for that awesome introduction. As they stated, I am your host, Josie Gray, and I am ecstatic to have you all join me today. Now, on our first two episodes, we discussed some challenges and issues that many people are faced with today. Those two things are distractions and greed. However, someone asked me, well, Josie, if I'm struggling with those things, among others, of course, how do I overcome them? What do I do to become better? How do I kick that habit? How do I defeat the enemy of the thoughts in my mind? Well, let's stop right there. See, the thoughts is the beginning of every decision that we make, every action that we take. First, we think about it, we ponder it, we review it, and then we take action. The first thing that we want to do is begin to address our thoughts, but that'll be on another session. So today, that being said, we're going to address exactly what those steps are, just a few of them. And so today's topic is how to overcome. How to overcome is today's topic. Well, let's begin. After talking to many leaders, reading books on my own, watching shows, and studying for myself, I've learned that a major part in overcoming any obstacle is first accountability and responsibility. Stop. Let's look at those two things. Accountability and responsibility. First, I got to admit what I've done. I got to be accountable to my own actions. That's number one, the hardest thing to admit. Admitting that I was wrong. Can anybody relate? We go through, and number two, we blame other people. We point fingers. Number three, we justify our excuses. Let's go back and talk about that a little bit. Accountability. What would I look like if I'm working for a manager? And then he's asking me for my productivity, my sales, my reports, if those things apply. But yet I'm giving him excuses. I'm saying it's somebody else's fault instead of what I didn't do. I'm saying, well, this happened and I had to do this, and I'm pointing fingers at someone else or at a situation, justifying my excuses. So let's talk about this. We justify excuses. Let's be honest. One of the things, you all probably heard somebody say, see, what had happened was, I'm sure y'all have heard that, especially when it comes to little children talking to us, our own children or our nieces and nephews, and sometimes those people we're in relationship who are actually adults, we come up with that story. This is what happened. So it was a cause and effect. That's what we're really saying. This happened. So the effect was I didn't do what I said I was going to do. But that took place. What happened was I didn't do what I was going to do. That's the bottom line. Here's a couple examples for you. We all have gone through grade school, right? Everybody's had homework. Have you heard that little child that said, oh, my dog tore it up, or my dog ate it, or somebody else says, well, I got into a fight, or somebody else says the school bus was late, or somebody else says something. Let me tell you what my true story was. I know you all don't know this, but I grew up in the country on a farm, or some people would call that a garden. So when I had to do my homework, I loved to work in the garden with my uncle. So when it came time for my uncle to go to work and I had came out of the garden, he had gotten home from work and taken a shower and everything and rested a little bit, going out to the garden, I got my little stuff together and I'd run out there and I'd go help him in the garden. And what happened was, after I helped him in the garden, then most of the time I'm tired, it's time to eat, I gotta wash up, take my shower, or bath back then, get ready for dinner, and my homework didn't get done. So I would ponder in my mind what I'm going to tell my teacher the next day. I know y'all are familiar with this. Typically, when we make excuses, we sit and we ponder if that one's going to be good enough or not. If that one doesn't sound good enough to convince us, we add to it. And we'll put enough of the facts in it to where it sounds like it's truth, but we really know it's just facts, because the truth is, let's be honest, even those times when I would say, well, we had church last night and I got home late, it was a fact. But I still had an opportunity when I did go to church, because we lived in church. I know some of y'all can relate to that too. But even during those times when I got back late from church, I still had an opportunity to do my homework in the car while we were driving, or me riding because I was a child back then, or when I got home, instead of watching my favorite TV shows, back then it was Different Strokes, Different World, and things like that. And some of you all can relate to that too. But I had an opportunity. I could have done my homework in the car, or at least worked on it. When I got home, I could have done some more. Here's what happened. Our family was decently sized. You know, it was 5 of us, me, 3 sisters, a brother. Now, 2 of them were older, so most of the time, they weren't in the car. But when we went to church, we were scrunched in like this, even in those big cars back then. But nevertheless, I could have easily slid forward and started working on my homework, doing something that's going to help me grow to what I knew I was responsible for, which was homework. Well, the ride in the car was about 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes. So that would have given me some time. Here's another thing. So let's say I didn't get any work done that night in the car. The next morning, I still had another opportunity. Ask me why. Why, Josie? Of course, the bus ride. The bus rides back then, even though we lived in a small town, were typically 30 to 45 minutes ride from home where I lived to the actual school. But instead, I liked to play on the bus. I wanted to see my friends. You know, we wanted to talk about what we saw on TV the night before. We wanted to talk about what was happening at school, what we're going to do that day, where we're going to meet at between classes, all that stuff. Excuses. So, that being said, we make excuses, even though there are facts included. It's not always the full truth. So that leads me to say, number 4, we have to deal with being honest with ourselves, those involved, and your God, your spirit, whomever you would, shall I say, deal with as far as your higher God, your higher self, or your higher consciousness, whatever that means to you. But here's the thing, being accountable, that's what's most important, being honest. Being truthful, not with facts, but telling the truth, being honest. Here's what I mean. If my manager, as I said a few minutes ago, is asking me questions about why I didn't do this and why I didn't do that, you know, being honest, the truth hurts sometimes. But you'll find it makes you feel better, and it makes it where you don't have to lie to cover up a lie, to cover up another lie, and then ultimately keep lying. You can be truthful with yourself, honest, and truthful with those you're dealing with. It makes it where at least now you can move forward and you can grow. You can build on truth, because you cannot build on a lie. You cannot build on blaming someone. You cannot build on pointing fingers. You cannot build on making excuses. All the things we just named. Being honest is, let's start from here. Let's grow from here. 5th thing is, I want you to look at generational habits, things, actions, rituals, whatever you want to call them, that have been passed down. For example, let me tell you 2 stories. One of them, my grandmother, God rest her soul, great woman, powerful woman, encouraging woman, but yet she was different. Something that she used to do. We would go to the grocery store, and all of us, you know, I don't know if you know this about me or not, but my mother was killed when I was 2 years old. So I was raised by my grandmother and my uncle. My dad was in the military, and he had different things going on where he was in and out of the hospital. So I was raised by my grandmother and my uncle. So what would happen is, when we would go to the grocery store, my grandmother, remember there were 5 of us, my 3 older sisters and my brother and myself, she ended up taking care of all of us, her and my uncle. So we all lived in the house that my dad and mom were buying before my mother was killed. And she would buy grocery, and she would ration out the grocery. I remember her keeping eggs in her closet that should have been kept in the refrigerator. Eggs, mayonnaise, peanut butter, jelly, different things, bread, different things like that she would keep in her closet. I also remember countless times that I would go and ask for eggs and would break the egg open, and y'all know what we found, right? Something that you don't ever want to smell, and you definitely don't ever want to cook, and you definitely don't ever want to eat. Okay? That being said, here's the point. Had I picked up that from her, I would have done the same things to my kids. Guess what? I did. I picked up a habit and a thought process of not enough. So I didn't do that to eggs. I didn't keep milk in the refrigerator. I didn't do anything like that needed to be refrigerated. But I would keep snacks. I would keep peanut butter. I would keep things like that in my closet or put up where the kids couldn't reach them or where they couldn't get them. They didn't have as easy access to them when they should have had that. I literally embedded that into my children that was embedded into me. I can say the same thing for at least one or two of my sisters, one in particular. We did that because it's what we saw. Here's another story for you. Generational, this is what we're talking about. I heard a story where a gentleman was talking to his wife, and they were talking about his mother's cooking. Well, his mother would take a roast about this big and put it in this big pan about this big and cook it with the potatoes and the onions and the carrots and everything else she would put in there, whatever her taste buds were, and a recipe. And he also noticed that his wife did it. Well, he started asking questions. He went to his grandmother, who his mother had watched. His mom, first of all, said, well, I did this because my mom did it. So he then goes to his grandmother. Grandmother says, well, I did it because, that's what my grandmother did. He actually said, why? My mother. He said, why did great-grandmama do that? She simply said, because she told me her pot wasn't big enough. Here's the point. They saw different things taking place, different habits that had become generational without a reason why, without a root of why. And what happened was it was passed on from child to child, generation to generation, without a solution, without a purpose, and without a root. Last thing I want to say to you is this. You want to identify what the root is and where the root is. Because when you can identify what's causing you those things that you're doing, or causing you to do those things that you're doing, that's causing you to act the way you do, that's causing you to behave the way you do in your responses or your reactions, when you find the root, then you can find the cause and you can deal with it. Well, this begins to end this ends our show. Thank you so much for listening to the Triple T Josie Gray Show. Follow us again. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way, when we're not posting, you'll be able to get alerts. All the information has been posted for you. Thank you so much. Until next week, this is Triple T Josie Gray Show. Make it a great one.